Hello, this is Kyra. In this video, we are going to continue the groups training series with part two. Part two is our frequently asked questions for contracted groups. These are a list of the questions that I hear the most and I see the most when it comes to contracted groups. So a quick reminder, what is a contracted group? A contracted group is generally 8+ cabins or 10+ rooms who have signed a contract, right? They physically sign the contract, the price and availability for that group is locked in, and it comes with extra benefits, okay? So this is what we are referring to in this training video is specifically contracted groups. So first question, how far in advance should a group contract? So 6 to 12+ months in advance is ideal, but the earlier is better, okay? You can book 2 years in advance for a contract. That's okay. Now, of course, if you are contracting airfare is not published that far in advance, so keep that in mind. But if you are contracting a hotel, a resort stay, a cruise, you can book very far in advance, and it is going to benefit you to be in that 6 to 12 month range because there's a lot that has to happen in the process from starting with the group to getting the contract signed to getting everyone reserved. So you will really appreciate having that length of time, but last minute groups can be arranged. You can book a group very last minute, okay? So if you only have a few months in advance, that is okay. It is going to be a lot to do, but it is doable. So do all travelers need to depart from the same city? The answer is no. This is one of the flexibilities of having a contracted group. So let's say that you are just contracting a resort stay. You as the travel agent can contract the resort stay. And when you go and book clients or group members into that room and into that contract, you can actually add airfare from wherever they are departing from. So you can bundle things together into single reservations like we're used to doing with individual clients. That is doable without even having to contract air, okay? So keep that in mind. You don't have to contract air to be able to add airfare to a hotel, resort stay, cruise, etc. Okay. Now, very important to know, most of the time people are not all coming from the same city. So this is something that's really great about contracted groups. But if the group is contracting air, they all have to be on the same flight. So not only do they need to depart from the same city, if you are contracting air, they need to be on the same flight number, same departure, everything the same. They must be on that same plane to their destination together in order to qualify for a contract. This is pretty rare, but you may come across this situation, especially if your group all lives in the same area, which is not always the case. What is the advantage of booking as a contracted group? Okay, really big benefit here. A group contract locks in the room rates. It blocks the hotel inventory. It offers those benefits to the group, and there are flexible group policies when it comes to reduction, cancellation, and payment schedule. Okay, huge advantage. You do not have these things if you do not have a group. So there's a big benefit for your clients who are traveling in large numbers to sign the group to go in with these, especially the locked in price and hotel inventory and availability. So will a group rate be lower than an FIT rate? Okay, so is the group rate going to be lower than the individual rate that you can find? The answer is not necessarily, okay? This may be a surprise to some people. Group rates may be lower than FIT rates, okay? They may be the same as the individual rates. They could be higher. It is not guaranteed that group rates are lower. Now, there are vendors that do promise best rates on groups. There are vendors who definitely don't promise that. So keep an eye out, be mindful of this, but don't forget that the group contract is including those benefits in the group rate. So there is value added for having a group contract. Even if the price is slightly higher, there is all this value that's usually worth much more than what the price increase may be. So just keep in mind, you cannot promise that the price will be lower, but sometimes it truly is. So why should a group use a travel agent? I would like to say, why shouldn't a group use a travel agent? Okay, there is so much benefit to using a travel agent, especially for groups. Now, when a group is traveling, they usually have their group, They have their Pied Piper or their group leader. This is the person who is bringing the group together, and this person will have to communicate with the vendor in order to arrange the group. Now, we as travel agents serve as the liaison that come in between the group and the group leader and the vendor, okay? We are saving the group from having to call the vendor, just like we save our clients from having to call the vendor. When you have a group, you will have more questions than if it's just you traveling. You're going to have a lot more questions. We as travel agents take those questions to the vendor and get them answered ourselves for the group leader, okay? So we are that liaison there, but we are also providing personalized service to each member of the group. So we will be individually booking each person in the group. We'll be collecting their payment information, just as if they were all our individual clients. We are going to take care of them just like we do every other one of our clients. So not only are we helping them out with the communication with the vendor, answering their questions, we're also serving as travel agents to everybody in that group. What are the responsibilities of the contracted group's travel agent? Okay, what are you responsible for? You're responsible for promoting the group, marketing the group. You are responsible for making the itinerary, right? You've got to find, if they want to go on a cruise, you've got to help them pick which cruise they want to contract or which hotel they want to stay at. You're going to collect payments from everyone in the group who is making payments. And you are responsible for fulfilling the contract terms and minimums that we will talk about in some of the future parts in more detail. But you as the travel agent signed the contract even on the behalf of the group. So you are responsible for fulfilling those contract terms. This is a great question. Is a group of 10 rooms 10 times the work of one regular room for an individual reservation? The answer is no, it is more than 10 times the work. So if you think that booking a group is going to be less work, I have to say, in my experience, that is not correct. There is overhead that goes into group travels and booking groups, okay? You're going to have to communicate with the vendor. You're going to have to get the group quote put together. You're going to have to communicate with the group leader back and forth over those things, signing the contract, talking to everybody. So in some places you are saving time, right? Because you're not quoting 10 different places. But on the other hand, you are still helping out those many people, plus everything you have to do extra because you have a group. So while the booking process is very familiar, in my experience, it is more than 10 times the work to do a group of 10 rooms versus just one individual room. So what advice do I have for someone who is working on their first group? Okay, stay organized is my biggest advice. I learned this on my first group, and I definitely did stuff different when I did my second group, and I'm learning each and every time. I recommend an electronic folder just for the group, okay, in a Google Drive or on your computer in your file folder system. And also a physical notebook just for that group. So just go buy a real cheap notebook for that group and keep it handy with you all the time. I use my group notebook for everything related to the group. So if someone from the group calls me, I'm going to take notes in that notebook so that everything stays together and isn't jumbled with my other clients. So I strongly recommend the notebook for just the group. And I like to have the notebook because I can bring it with me no matter where I am throughout the day. I have that in case someone calls me and has a question, okay? Write everything down. There are going to be a lot of people with a lot of questions, and there are going to be things that sometimes are a little difficult with groups, such as people coming and leaving on different days, right? Who is riding with who in the transportation? Who wants to go on this tour? Who wants to go on that tour? Okay, so writing everything down and staying organized is going to help you be successful as a group travel agent. Now, how do I market myself for groups? My best advice here is to find the Pied Piper or the group leader. This is going to be the person who is going to bring the group together. This person is going to bring these people together and say, let's travel together. So how do you do this? Think about organizations, clubs, of maybe your children's schools. Think about those places you are affiliated with, okay? Maybe your church or religious institution. Think about those organizations. They have a Pied Piper. They have someone there who could bring a group together to travel. So look for those that you're already involved with and think about ones that maybe you aren't already involved with, okay? All of these organizations have someone who could bring the group together, and finding that person is going to be key to marketing yourself for groups, okay? That's my best advice when it comes to marketing for a group. So thank you so much. That was part 2. We went over some of the frequently asked questions I see regarding contracted groups, and I will see you in part 3.